So welcome everyone from around the globe. Good morning from North America. Good afternoon to folks from Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And good evening for folks from India and a late evening for folks from Australia. Representing the GOSUMEC Foundation USA, I, Sanjay Bindra, co-founder and president, extend my heartfelt gratitude for your esteemed presence today. Our mission, rooted in love and abundance, is dedicated to student welfare. Formed in January of 2023, we are a robust community of nearly 450 GOSUMECs in the United States and growing, and have already made significant contributions to our alma mater and will continue to do so. Today, we embark on a journey through the rich history of our institution, celebrating its inception in June of 1925. This journey will be enriched with insights from Dr. Sunil Pandya and a touching video featuring a heartfelt letter from N.R. Suvarna, a student from the inaugural class of 1925, shared with Dr. R.S. Satoskar when he was 90 years of age. We are deeply honored to have with us the esteemed legends and founding pillars of our alma mater. Our distinguished speakers include family members from our founding class of 1925, among them Jivraj Mehta, grandson of Dr. Jivraj Mehta, our first dean, and Rustam Sethna, grandson of Dr. R.N. Cooper. We are also privileged to have esteemed individuals such as Dr. R.S. Satoskar, Farokh Udwadia, Dev Pardanani, and of course, you, our honored guests. I'm deeply honored to welcome our current Dean, Dr. Sangeeta Rawat, and former Deans, Dr. Pragnya Pai, R.G. Shirati, Nilima Shirsagar, M.E. Yevlekar, S.A. Kamath, S.N. Oak, S.R. Parker, Avinash Supe, and H.L. Deshmukh. Today, we proudly have an 80% representation of all deans of our institution, either in person or through their family members. Welcome to this nostalgic and evocative journey as we celebrate the beginnings and enduring legacy of our alma mater. We have a comprehensive agenda today. Before we begin, please take note of a few housekeeping rules to ensure a smooth and enjoyable session. Please mute your microphones upon entry to avoid any background noise. Use only one device to join the session to prevent any cross noise or feedback. Speakers are kindly requested to adhere to their allotted times. Please post any queries in the chat tab located at the footer of your Zoom screen. Practice basic courtesy by not speaking over each other. Dr. Vinita Salvi and Dr. Alpa Sanghvi will moderate the session. Thank you for your cooperation, and let's enjoy the session. So, Dr. Pandya, you can share your screen now. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce Dr. Sunil Pandya, a renowned neurosurgeon and the inaugural chair of our alma mater's humanities division. Dr. Pandya's pioneering work in medical ethics in India and his passion for the history of medicine make him the perfect person to share the origins of our institution. He has also played a crucial role in the development of the GOSUMEC Foundation's website and has been an invaluable mentor to me. Please join me in welcoming Sunil Pandya. You can take over, Dr. Pandya.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your kind introduction. The genesis of the Govindas Sundardas Medical College was laid when graduates of the Grand Medical College, which was founded in 1845, were denied posts of professors in their own alma mater. Although many of these consultants in the 55 years since the college was founded had become eminent in their own field, had made several research and clinical contributions, and had acquired professional diplomas and degrees in England, including the fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons, membership of the Royal College of Physicians, they were not being enrolled as teachers in their own alma mater. This is because the British officers of the Indian Medical Service were jealous to maintain their own primacy in the field, and often they would appoint professors who were very junior and much less qualified to our own Grand Medical College consultants. Now, these senior consultants got together and they formed the Bombay Medical Union in 1883 for a number of purposes, one of which was to fight for their rights in their own alma mater. And as you can see, the names are each of them very, very distinguished individuals. Dr. Atmaram Pandurang Karkar was in fact a member of the very first batch of students of the Grand Medical College in 1845. And none of these names actually need any introduction because they have made their mark in the field of medicine in Bombay. Two things happened which propelled the formation of a new medical college, even against the wishes of the Indian Medical Service. Up to about 1907, the Municipal Corporation of Bombay was in charge of the police. And so they had to look after the security of the city, since the police were directly under the Bombay Municipal Corporation. Health and health facilities were under the government of Bombay. Farokh Mehta and a number of others had been waging an incessant and protracted fight, both in the Legislative Council and in the Municipal Corporation, to transfer the police to the government and medical education and medical services to the Municipal Corporation. This finally materialized when Act number 3 of 1907 was passed. The city was relieved of the liability of police charges, and medical relief and education were transferred to the Municipal Corporation. This laid the foundations for a medical college. A medical college had been proposed as early as 1880. Atmaram Pandurang had suggested that the GT Hospital, Gokuldas Tejpal Hospital, be converted into a medical college and Indians appointed as consultant teachers over there. This the government had rejected and had dumped. After the passage of the Police Act, the Municipal Corporation, which was then headed by many of our stalwarts, including Sir Farokh Mehta, felt that the grounds had been laid for creating a new medical college in the labor area of Bombay, which was the mill area of Parel and Lalbagh. And so they proposed that a medical college and hospital be set up in Parel and Lalbagh in that area to cater to the poor mill workers and to look after their health. And this proposal was gaining ground. The problem was finding funds for the medical college. And that is when another important act of nature occurred. Now, the individual you see in front of you on the screen is Mulji Jetha. He was a founder of a fairly large business empire in Bombay at that time. And the Mulji Jetha market continues to flourish in Bombay even today. Mulji Jetha died in 1889. His son, Sundar Das Mulji, had predeceased him. And so now there were two grandchildren, Dharamsi Sundar Das and Gordhan Das Sundar Das. Dharamsi Sundar Das had died in 1889, leaving behind him his son Karsan Das. Gordhan Das had married a lady called Gangabai, but they had no children. So they had adopted Chaturbhuj Gordhan Das as their son. When Gordhan Das Sundar Das died in 1902, Karsan Das, greedy for grabbing the entire Mulji Jetha establishment, demanded that the entire estate of Mulji Jetha be transferred to him because Chaturbhuj was only an adopted son and not a genetically related son. So there was a big protracted battle because the amounts involved were huge at that time. This is Gordhan Das Sundar Das. He had died in 1902, and at his death, there was this battle for the Mulji Jetha Empire. So the courts appointed 3 individuals to negotiate with the heirs of Mulji Jetha and to see whether this could be resolved. And these 3 people were Farokh Mehta, Sir Chimandal Setalwad, and Mr. Narayan Chandawad. They were successful in their mission and they were able to restore peace between the adopted son and the claimant to the Mulji Jetha Empire. And so a settlement was made, but as a price for having engineered this settlement, they made it a condition that from the funds of the Mulji Jetha Empire, a certain amount be set aside for the creation of a medical college. And this was the beginning of the medical college, which was eventually named after Gordhan Das Sundar Das. And this is the medical college which eventually resulted. And here we have a plaque which is visible in the campus of the college and hospital even today. And as you can see from the paragraph right at the top, the executors of Saint Gordhan Das Sundar Das had contributed 14,50,000 towards the creation of the college. The college was to be maintained by the Municipal Corporation of Bombay. 14.5 lakhs was a huge amount of money in those days. And then the college started working in June 1925, although the formal opening was on the 22nd of January 1926, along with the opening of the hospital. And Dr. Jivraj Mehta was the first dean. The architect was George Whitted, whose portrait you saw. And George Whitted died young in Bombay. And when he died, he had been buried in the Sidri cemetery. Unfortunately, the memorial plaque is not as pristine as it is seen in this photograph. It is somewhat dilapidated with the passage of time. Now we come to the hospital. Edward VII was the son of Victoria and Albert, and like the present King of England, King Charles III, he had to wait for a long, long time before his mother passed away and he could become king. He had visited India in 1875. He came to Bombay in what was called Government House. Government House is today, and the king and his retinue had occupied the whole of Government House at that particular time. He died on the 10th of May, 6th of May, 1910. And when he died, the citizens of the British Empire, as it was then, voted to create a memorial unto him. And for us, most of them decided to create a hospital in his memory to be called the King Edward VII Hospital. Other places. Here are some names at the bottom in the last line of where these King Edward VII Memorial Hospital can be found. There was a King Edward VII Memorial Hospital in London, founded in 1899. That is when the king was alive, and in fact, he was the patron of that hospital. So that was not a memorial hospital in that sense. And this is the hospital which resulted. The architect was George Whitted. And as you can see, it's a ground floor and first floor structure. On the terrace, you see all these domes. Today, we have ground floor, first floor, second floor. And on the terrace, there are no domes because the domes had to be removed in order to be able to create the second floor. There are domes on the Wadia Hospital for children and the Wadia Hospital for women, which were also designed by Whitted. And since they did not need an extension in an upward direction, their domes have been preserved. Here is the memorial plaque to King Edward VII. And you can see the different donations which were made in order to be able to create this hospital. The government of Bombay donated 5 lakhs, and that the government also gave them the site, which was the site that was part of the campus of the old government house. And that was valued at 5 lakhs. Then a contribution was received from the King Edward VII Memorial Association, which was 7 lakhs. And there were other donations. So these donations are all mentioned on this particular plaque. And this plaque, fortunately, is also in very good shape in the campus of the institution. When Dr. Jivraj Mehta was appointed as the dean, and when he was asked to start the college, he enrolled as teachers a number of very, very eminent clinicians. And I have enlarged the names of the prominent physicians and surgeons on the right-hand side because the small print on the left column is not very clearly visible. And you can see that it included individuals like Dr. M.D.D. Gilder, Dr. P.C. Barucha, Dr. Erulkar, Purushottam Patel, G.V. Deshmukh, Rustam Cooper, Shirvalkar, B.L. Parmar, N.A. Purandare, Herculano D'Souza, Herculano Disa, and Mrs. Dosibai Dadabai. And you can just about see at the bottom the name of Dr. Khanolkar, who was the professor of pathology. These individuals, under the guidance of Dr. Jivraj Mehta, made an outstanding statement. They decided that they would be teachers in the medical college, but none of them would be professors, and there would be no hierarchy, head of the department, professor, assistant professor. They were all equal, and they termed themselves lecturers. So MDD Gilder was a lecturer in medicine, Barucha was a lecturer in medicine, G.V. Deshmukh was a lecturer in surgery, Bacha was a lecturer in surgery. This kind of uniformity of status and the avoidance of hierarchy made for coordinated functioning, and their stated aim was that we are going to ensure that this medical college and this hospital will outshine the government hospital and medical college which are being run by the Indian Medical Service Office. And with Dr. Jivraj Mehta at the helm, they made sure that the reputation of the KEM rose very rapidly. And in a few years, the KEM hospital was at least on par with the JJ hospital, and the Godandas Sundardas Medical College was at least on par with the Grand Medical College. All because of the selfless service which was provided by the first batch of teachers. Now, I've shown you two photographs of Dr. Jivraj Mehta. One is when he had just returned from England, suited and booted, and the other when he became Chief Minister of Gujarat and then eventually went on to other appointments. But you will notice that I have also shown you his wife, Hansaben, and I have a reason for doing that. Hansaben deserves at least as much respect as Dr. Jivraj Mehta himself. Dr. Hansa Mehta was a member of the United Nations Charter Committee. While she was a member of the Charter Committee of the United Nations, she noticed a statement in the charter which was being written saying all men are born equal. As a member of that committee, she objected. How can you say all men are created equal? What about the women? And she made them change the charter. And if you read the charter today, it reads, all persons are equal. And she was to keep fighting for women's rights throughout her life. Another distinctive appointment which she held was to be a member of the Constituent Assembly, which laid down the Constitution of India. And so she was a partner to Ambedkar and to all the others who laid down the Indian Constitution. And even in the Indian Constitution, when it was being written, she ensured that women were given their proper position and their proper rights. This is a photograph of the very first batch of students. I can just about identify Dr. Rustam Cooper over here. This is Dr. Jivraj Mehta. I'm afraid I can't identify many of the others, and I certainly cannot identify Mr. Suvarna, who was later to become a very eminent surgeon and who was a member of this first batch. So this is how the college and the hospital started. I'd like to end with a plea, a request to the administrators of the hospital. This is what the emblem of the medical college and hospital looks like today. It features a staff with wings on it, and it features two serpents. Unfortunately, this is medically incorrect because the wings belong to Hermes, who was the god of speed, among other things. And Hermes, with his staff, had two serpents. But what we as physicians are interested in is the staff of Aesculapius. Aesculapius was the Greek god of medicine. in ancient times. And as you can see from the statue on the left-hand side, Aesculapius had a single serpent around the staff and no wings. Why did he have serpents? Because in the ancient Aesculapian temples, they believed that serpents promote healing. And in those temples, we are told that whilst the patients were in the wards, all around them, there were serpents slithering hither and thither. I presume that these were all non-venomous snakes, but snakes, because they mold and because they go on regenerating their skin, they were supposed to be, for that reason and for other reasons, the promoters of healing. And that is why the staff of Aesculapius has one serpent and Aesculapius' staff. We need to make this change in our emblem in order to be historically correct. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Pandya. Swati, do you want to share your screen?
Okay. So this is the play we did. It's called It's called Yesterday Once More. It is based on Dr. Pandya's presentation, but we made it come alive with many of my classmates taking part in the play and with full costumes. And we did a very nice 20-minute play, and we did a lot of research further into how our college was formed. We met with the Mulji Jetha families. We met with many of the professors who founded and their families. And we also interviewed BMJ and others to understand the role of the Bahaduri brothers in the formation of our college. So let's hope I can share it.
Participant screen sharing.
Yeah, can you please put screen sharing for Swati Piramal 1?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Post disabled participant.
Disable?
Still post disabled participants.
Yeah, you still disable the participant screen sharing. The host has disabled participant screen sharing.
So I think you're a co-host, and so you should be able to share the screen.
Should be able to share. I think it's a bit slow, but let me tell everyone what it was about. We took Dr. Pandya's pictures, the photographs which he just showed, and we made our classmates as close as possible to look like that. And we had almost dead ringers for every person. For example, Dr. Mohan Chandavarkar looked like Chandavarkar. It was amazing that Dr. Jivraj Mehta, we could actually match into the photograph. Hansa Mehta was a dead ringer for Hansa Mehta. And the best was, of course, King Edward VII, who is a German person who lives in Mumbai, works in Commerce Bank, and we requested him to be King Edward VII. So I'm sorry it's still not allowing me to do this, but two things that our class did, I'd like to share about that. We did this play. It was 20 minutes. We even had a fortune teller who in 1926, who then predicted what would happen to GSMC today. And it was really beautiful. And finally, we also, about 25 of our classmates contributed to helping medical interns, and medical interns then to the Gandhi Fellowship, It was a full 1-year fellowship, of which 1 month was practical in the tribal areas, in the deep, dark parts of India where the healthcare was poor. And they had to go and visit and use systems thinking to help find solutions and develop leadership skills. So that's what we did. The fellowship is remarkable. I'd love to share the videos of the students, but we really followed your two important things to help medical students gain knowledge of new and modern ideas and really finding solutions to India's problems. Still not been able to share, but I have this wonderful movie which I'll be happy to share with GOSUMEC. And it had the trailer, and you'll see we used artificial intelligence to make sure everybody's photographs were identical. We are not yet able to do it. Sorry.
Please review a short video showcasing medical humanities at our alma mater. We are among the select medical institutions nationally with a MH division gaining recognition for comprehensive education. Now let's take a journey back to the founding days of our alma mater. In a heartfelt letter, N.R. Suvarna, a student from the inaugural class of 1925, shared his experiences and growth during those formative years. As you learn about his journey, we invite you to reflect on your own. Let's reminisce and savor these shared memories together. Enjoy the journey. We are excited to share excerpts from the original letter, inviting you to reminisce and reconnect with our shared legacy. During his school days in Mangalore, Suvarna Malve found his pet dog ailing in the garden. Recalling Gandhi's mud treatment from Guide to Health, he buried and spoon fed him, caring for him diligently. Remarkably, after just 10 days, the dog emerged fully cured. This transformative experience solidified his resolve to become a physician. As Suvarna Malve eloquently adds, this decided my future. In May of 1925, following his inter-science exams, he awaited responses from Madras Medical College. Upon his brother's recommendation, he swiftly applied to a new medical college in Parel, Bombay. Rushing to Bombay, he met with Dean Dr. Jivraj Mehta on June 3rd, 1925. The dean's encouraging manner made a lasting impact, especially when he praised him as a talented sportsman, a nod he recalls he quietly acknowledged. Between June 3rd and June 5th, students arrived from Kashmir, Punjab, Nagpur, Calcutta, and the South, forming a diverse yet harmonious community. Meeting professors like Dr. Kopikar from anatomy and Dr. Niyogi from physiology, with their contagious enthusiasm, fueled our eagerness to learn. Dr. Kopikar's friendly demeanor extended to sports, organizing matches with teams from Santa Cruz, while also showing personal interest in every student's academic journey. Despite the initial absence of sporting activities in the college area, Suvarna Malve remained dedicated to his passion for sports, excelling in tennis at the PJ Hindu Gymkhana. His skills earned him an invitation from the Intercollegiate Tennis Committee. Teaming up with Mr. M. Pandya, they triumphed in both singles and doubles events at the Xavier College Court, with the Dean and Mrs. Mehta in attendance. The tournament concluded with them raising their trophies high amid cheers from fellow students who celebrated with a declared holiday. Under the dean's guidance, the college formed an elected general body, with Suvarna serving as the honorary general secretary. Despite a small student body, they excelled in various intercollegiate tournaments, including cricket, football, athletics, and tennis. Their success in tennis led to the dean's appointment as president of the university tennis subcommittee, with Suvarna providing solid support in managing the intercollegiate tennis tournament. On January 22nd, 1926, the grand opening ceremony of the hospital was attended by prominent figures, including the governor of Bombay. The event featured a memorable tennis match where Mr. Pandya and Suvarna faced off against Mr. Annett, the municipal engineer, and the wife of the municipal commissioner in a closely contested match. A few months later, the hostel was ready for occupancy, with each student having their own room. On the ground floor, three messes, Gujarati, Maharashtrian, and Punjabi, were run by the students themselves, ensuring comfort and convenience. This allowed students to focus on their studies without any hindrance. In the morning, as they woke up and admired the majestic college building, which evoked Roman architecture, and the sprawling hospital just ahead, they felt immensely fortunate to be part of this esteemed institution. After their first inter MBBS exam, they immerse themselves in pharmacology and pathology, gaining first hand experience with human diseases in the hospital. Despite the challenges, Dr. Paranjpe and Dr. Khanolkar made pharmacology and pathology engaging and accessible through their personal interest and guidance. Invaluable experiences awaited them in the hospital, where Dr. R.N. Cooper and Dr. Shirvalkar led remarkable surgical clinics, while Dr. Gilder and Dr. P.C. Barucha conducted inspiring medical lectures, instilling confidence in their future. A special mention goes to Dr. Erulkar, whose captivating English and compelling clinics and lectures compelled them to prioritize attendance above all else. As senior students, they had the unique privilege of observing renowned surgeons like Dr. A.P. Bacha and Dr. G.V. Deshmukh. Intrigued by surgery, Suvarna Malve became Dr. Deshmukh's house surgeon, gaining invaluable insights from him. Dr. Deshmukh's surgical prowess fascinated Suvarna, and his tennis skills and interest in surgery endeared him to Dr. Deshmukh. In fact, Dr. Deshmukh even arranged temporary duty coverage to allow Suvarna to compete and eventually clinch the Western India Tennis Championship in 1931, all while serving as his house surgeon. It was Dr. Deshmukh's encouragement that propelled Suvarna to join and succeed in the tournament. The enthusiastic efforts of surgeons, professors, and teachers to nurture their skills fostered a strong sense of camaraderie among the students. In celebration, they organized a successful dinner party outside the hostel, with all three messes collaborating in meal preparation. Honorary professors, doctors, and demonstrators graced the event, making it a resounding success. Now, with the dean actively involved in sports, everything was running smoothly. The College Day celebrations marked a significant event. Despite the dean's initial proposal for an official celebration, the students insisted on organizing it themselves. Suvarna Malve was appointed president, leading a committee with subcommittees for various activities. The entire day was dedicated to the event, with all teachers participating. In the morning, students embarked on a trip to Juhu in two large buses, distributing food packets along the way and hiring a boat for sea excursions. During one trip, a student began to sink, but a swift rescue prevented disaster, potentially saving Suvarna Malve's college career as the event's president. Thankfully, they returned from Juhu unharmed and happy. In the evening, a light music program took place in the college hall, presided over by Dr. N.A. Purandre, who imparted valuable advice in his address. In 1930, the inaugural class faced their final MBBS exam, well prepared for the challenge. Under the guidance of Dr. Shirvalkar and Dr. Cooper, the students received exceptional instruction in surgery, with their bedside clinics leaving a lasting impression. Equally fortunate was their experience on the medical side under the tutelage of Dr. Gilder and Dr. Barucha. They also had the privilege of observing surgical operations by Dr. Barucha and Dr. Deshmukh, akin to Lord Lister and Lord Moynihan, respectively. Their expertise, particularly in emergency surgeries, was awe inspiring. Suvarna Malve's passion for surgery was evident. During vacations, he often stayed behind to assist Dr. Rege in outdoor sessions. Recognizing his dedication and skill, Dr. Rege gradually entrusted him with more responsibilities, eventually allowing him to independently perform minor surgeries. Until 1930, the college enjoyed a glorious period. However, this changed when Dr. Jivraj Mehta, the dean, was arrested for his involvement in national activities. Dr. Khanolkar then assumed the role of acting dean. Under Dr. Khanolkar's leadership, the hospital selection board favored candidates from JJ Hospital for positions as house surgeons and house physicians, sidelining local candidates. This led to agitation spearheaded by Suvarna Malve, escalating into strikes and reaching the municipal council. Consequently, he became an undesirable figure. After completing his term as a casualty officer, he sought to pursue a necessary 3-month postgraduate course for the MS exam. However, Dr. Khanolkar denied his request. This marked the end of his time at KEM Hospital. He then moved to JJ Hospital to pursue his postgraduate course and prepare for his MS exam. After completing his MS degree, Suvarna Malve established his own hospital at Opera House. There he worked alongside Dr. Deshmukh, assisting in private operations, and volunteered as a surgeon at Congress Free Hospital, thus gaining extensive surgical experience. He then served as an honorary doctor in the ear, nose, and throat department at Haji Bachuvali Hospital. Later, he accepted a position as chief medical officer at Savantwadi State, where he conducted around 700 operations annually. However, he resigned due to unstable state politics and relocated to Malvan, a coastal town in Sindhudurg district, where he established and managed his own hospital. After 6 decades at the age of 90, he retired from surgical practice, having performed approximately 10,000 operations. Suvarna Malve found his greatest reward in the profound relief experienced by his patients, a driving force propelling him to continue his work with unwavering dedication, even at the remarkable age of 90. With heartfelt thanks, he expresses, I certainly owe a debt of gratitude to the institution and to those doctors where I was initiated and trained into the medical profession with its noble objectives. Dear friends, colleagues, I have no doubt that you all will spare no efforts to be the best in your noble profession and will bring credit to the esteemed institution where you have been nurtured. Best of luck to you all, Suvarna Malve.
That was
Sanjay, you're
perfect.
on mute again.
Sanjay, may I try it once more?
Uh,
It's
yeah,
2
go ahead.
minutes. Yeah.
Yes, that was perfect, Sanjay. Thank you.
Still disabled participant screen sharing. Made me a co-host, I know, but it's. There we go.
I, Edward, King of England and Emperor of India.
I am Princess Alexandria.
I am the Infanta Catherine of Braganza.
I am Mulji Jaita.
I am Gordandas Sundardas.
I, Dr. Kaikashru Nasarwanji Bahadurji.
I, D.N. Bahadurji.
I am Sir Narayan Ganesh Chandavarkar.
I am Firozshah Merwanji Mehta.
I am Sachimanlal Harilal Setalwad.
I am Dr. Jivraj Mehta.
I, Dr. G.D. Deshmukh.
I am George Whitted.
I am Hansa Jivraj Mehta.
I am Lieutenant Colonel Sir Leslie Orme Wilson.
I am a fortune teller. I I see the SAIT GS Medical College and the KM hospitals, protection from illness and from rain. I see them giving shelter to all from monsoons and also offering relief from pain. I see them keeping patients safe in buildings connected by a long corridor on a joyful campus filled with endless bliss and endless laughter.
That's the trailer. And it's about 20 minutes, but it was so successful. And we'd love to do it again in the centenary.
Yeah, thank you, Swati. And
we had
you
colleagues from
welcome
all
this.
over the world participate.
So thank you, Swati. And if you can share the video, we can even upload it on our website for people to
Yes,
review.
I'd be delighted to. It's lovely, the whole concept. It is based on Dr. Pandya's PowerPoint, which we just saw, but it makes it come alive with theater and costumes and music.
Wonderful. So now I welcome Dr. Vinita Salvi, who will moderate the session with the legends and their families and the deans. Dr. Vinita Salvi, an astute and vibrant clinician and former head of a unit in OBGYN, actually grew up on our campus. Her deep-rooted passion for our institution shines through all that she does. Today, she will moderate the interaction with our esteemed legends, deans, and the community alongside our board member, Dr. Alpa Sanghvi. So Vinita, you can take it from here.
Thanks. Good day, everybody. And in this next half an hour, we will have either legendary speakers or grandsons of legends in this history of GS and KM. So we have the grandson of Jivraj Mehta, that is Jaidev Mehta. And can we unmute him and have him?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you screen share?
No need.
Yeah, you'll just speak.
Yeah. So, namaskar on behalf of the family of Dr. Jivraj Mehta, whom we called Dadaji. Who was Dr. Mehta? It will be hard to do him justice. You know him as the first dean of KEM Hospital, but in a long career, he had also been a physician, administrator, freedom fighter, legislator, diplomat, and a member of parliament, among many other accomplishments. Coming from a modest background in Amreli, Saurashtra, he had earned scholarships for medical studies in Bombay and then London, where he received his MD and FRCS with a gold medal. While there, he also helped form the Indian Students Association. I only knew Dadaji to wear a khadi and perhaps a Nehru jacket and cap, but we have a picture of him from his youthful London days wearing a stylish top hat and tails. Then followed a period of private medical practice. There was an unusual event in 1916 while he was escorting a patient, I believe it was Sir Ratan Tata, to England. Their ship was torpedoed in the Mediterranean Sea, and Dadaji and his party spent a day drifting in lifeboats before they were rescued. The 1920s brought many changes, including, of course, the founding of KEM Hospital. But even more eventful was his marriage in 1924 to Hansa Mehta, the daughter of the Dewan of Baroda state. It was an inter-caste marriage and somewhat scandalous at the time. Hansa Mehta, my Dadima, became well known in her own right, as previous speakers have mentioned. She had the honor of presenting the Indian flag on Independence Day in Parliament on behalf of the women of India, among many other honors and achievements. Over the next years, both my grandparents participated in the independence movement. In 1942, during the Quit India agitation, both were jailed, Dadima was kept in a Class A women's facility in Pune, but Dadaji was detained as a Class C prisoner doing hard labor. At the same time, Gandhiji himself was put under house arrest at the Aga Khan Palace in Pune. When Gandhiji went on a hunger strike, my Dadaji was brought in to him to serve as his physician. When independence came, Dadaji was selected by Sardar Patel to be the last Diwan of Baroda state, following in his father-in-law's footsteps, but with the specific task of convincing the Maharaja of Baroda to quickly accede to the Indian Union. He later became a legislator and administrator in the old Bombay state, holding several positions, including Minister of Prohibition and Industry, very appropriately since he had become an ardent prohibitionist. If you are wondering how Dr. Jivraj Mehta came to have an American grandson, it is because his son, Hashraj, while studying in New York in 1951, was crazy enough to marry an American named Paige Coleman. The new American daughter-in-law also had a KEM connection. She was part of the team that established the physical therapy clinic at KEM in the mid-1950s. At the time, it was the first such clinic in India. And she often talked about how, even then, she would still see notices posted in the halls that were signed by order of Dr. Jivraj Mehta, Dean. These events were all before my time. Dadaji was almost 70 when I was born. My earliest memories of him were from when he became Chief Minister of Gujarat. We went and stayed with him in Ahmedabad. Prime Minister Nehru also visited, and we were taken out to the road to watch him and Dadaji slowly drive by in an open car. As they passed, Dadaji pointed us out to the Prime Minister and presumably said, "Those are my grandsons." So the PM turned and gave us a personal smile and wave. Dadaji's next challenge was as the Indian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. Again, we went and stayed with him in London for a few months, during which time my brother and I were put in school. Dadaji would drop us off at school on his way to work, so we arrived in style in the chauffeur-driven High Commissioner's car with the Indian flag proudly flying from the bonnet. In the 1970s, Dadaji re-entered politics and was elected to the Lok Sabha from Amreli. It was a turbulent time, with Indira Gandhi's electoral victory being nullified by the courts, which then triggered the so-called emergency. Dadaji wrote to Mrs. Gandhi about his misgivings over her actions and even went on a fast to underline them. I guess this may have ended his career in politics. He retired in 1977. After I went off to college in the US, I wrote letters to Dadaji and Dadima, and I'm told he read them with pencil in hand, correcting all my grammatical and spelling mistakes. He passed away in 1978 at the age of 91. My grandparents believed in self-sacrifice and excellence. They fought for freedom and the establishment of the modern state of India. Thank you for this opportunity to keep their memories alive in conjunction with the KEM Hospital centenary celebration. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mehta, you had absolutely illustrious grandparents, and we are really fortunate that you shared personal moments with your grandparents. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. And now we have one more grandson of one more illustrious personality, and that would be Rustam Setna, who is the grandson of R.N. Cooper, who's also one of the pioneering doctors of GS Medical College and KM Hospital.
I have a suggestion for Mr. Mehta that we need to have an autobiographical film on Jivraj Bhai, because it was such a wonderful life. That this is Ashok Vaidya speaking. Thank you.
Suggestion accepted. We'll see what can be done. Mr. Rustam Setna?
Yes.
And just one
Thank
more
you for
moment,
this.
if it should include Hansa Mehta. Many of us were in college when she was still alive and we never met her. It is one of our greatest regrets.
This is Rustam Setna. Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk about my grandfather, Dr. Rustam Cooper. There are several of us participating in this who are part of our family. My cousins, Rustam Dalal, Behram Dalal, Jaru Ranji, and my sister Mayor are all present today. So I'll ask them if they would like to share some anecdotes. They're welcome to do so. I will say this. I was only 7 years old when my grandfather passed away, but I still remember a lot about him, and he still touches our lives in many ways, I'd like to think. So what you should know is Rustam Cooper, we called him Dad, and his wife, Minnie Cooper. They both were very, very dear to our family and very loving. And they had three daughters, and each one of their daughters had a son called Rustam in honor of my grandfather. I remember a few things about him very distinctly. And one of the things that I remember about him is his gentleness, his avid curiosity. He was extremely well-read, and he had a passion for many different things, including painting, photography, and he had, I remember, a Bell and Howell camera. So whenever he went on vacation, he would carry it with him. And those movies we used to watch many years later, even after he had passed away. I know that he also was very interested in astronomy, and he had hoped that one day someone would land on the moon. Unfortunately, he passed away in 1966, and the event happened in 1969, I believe. So I remember that very, very clearly. And I remember the time when my parents had to go to Vienna, and my grandparents came to look after us. It was really delightful to just watch. Rustam Cooper, my grandfather, was extremely hardworking. This is a fact. And therefore, in the mornings, I would see him get up early and rush to the hospital. I noticed that he would just swallow 2 raw eggs to get a quick jolt of protein and then rush off to the hospital. This I remember distinctly. You know, he would come back, he would talk to us. He was very, very gentle with us, you know. And I think of all of us, Behram probably was most mischievous, but he was very, very kind. And we heard a lot from our moms about Rustam Cooper's generosity with his patients, those who couldn't really afford a lot. He wouldn't charge them, and he'd slip money under their pillows. This is a fact. I remember going to Marshall Lodge where they lived. This is no longer there. And it was in Kambala Hill. And I remember he would have a whole stack of National Geographic magazines. And this is something we would look at. And he was very interested in many, many different things, you know, from, as I said, from literature to painting to different things. And he could paint really, really well. I also remember the time when he did my brother's tonsillectomy, and the patience and gentleness with which he cared for him was amazing. And I remember he'd come to the house to check on the stitches and to keep the throat moist. He would spray something in there, and he always suggested that he Sucrets. So today, since I'm not very well, I will have some Sucrets in his honor. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak about my illustrious grandfather. And thank you very much for remembering him.
Thank you, Mr. Setna, for sharing intimate moments with your grandfather, the illustrious Daddy Cooper, as he was also known. And now we move on to Professor Dr. R.S. Satoskar, the Encyclopedia of Pharmac, as all of our students knew him. So please join in and share your moments with us.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, you're online.
I'm very happy to be with you today. I must express thank particularly Dr. Bendra and the organizers for giving me this opportunity to express my gratitude to all my teachers and to my alma mater, or all that helped me in future to develop my career, my character, and my personality. Although I retired in 1985, I continued visiting medical college and my department, particularly the library, every week, almost every week, every Tuesday, till the COVID, which was just a few years back, And so I have really seen the development and progress of the whole institution from 1946 till, of course, today. And what is mentioned about Dr. Suvarna, he was finally settled down in Malvan, from where I come from, same place. And I have met him many times in Malvan when I used to go as a student there, and I have talked with him. Dr. Suvarna worked in Malvan when there was no electricity. There was nothing, even gas or nothing, We have plenty of mosquitoes, but it's a beautiful country, just near Goa. I was admitted by Dr. Dhaigude, R.J. Dhaigude, and he was a great dean with a long vision, and they established the new full-time system, credit and planning and implementing goes to him. Unfortunately, he passed away early before retirement. Then, during my years of at the department and at the college, I still remember very much my teachers, many teachers, of course, Dr. Kopikar and Dr. Paranpe. Paras Mai was the last batch which they taught, Kopikar was an exceptionally good teacher. He used to draw the diagrams very easily, very jovial. And I remember many times, we were, as a group, we used to go to him for part examination and get the signatures. I used to ask a couple of questions and then used to give us talk again on the teaching only, and signed our cards without any problem. We had some teachers that time, we used to keep the cards in the drawer and call us again for the part examination. Pharmacology there was a very smart department. experimental pharmacology, because prior to introduction of penicillin, there were hardly any drugs. There were all no drugs at all, and most of the pharmacology there was taught is related to animal pharmacology. That is what just now Dr. Pandya mentioned as the experimental pharmacology. Pharmacology, there was only one professor, that Professor Paranpe, who probably taught my last batch. And there was one part-time demonstrator and two demonstrator. They used to learn a lot about pharmacy. Pharmacy, that means we were dispensing in those days, lot of mixtures, tablets or other things. And I still remember KM Hospital, methyl salicylate liniment was popular as malish liniment, and a lot of people used to come for asking every time, give us that malish tail, we should prepare there and then dispense all those things. But, and also, I was very lucky to get exposed to the very senior teachers in those days by particularly Dr. R.N. Cooper, my last batch, Dr. A.V. Baliga, N.D. Patel, and not P.C. Barucha, but E.P. Barucha, Dr. N.S. Vaya, J.M. Spanke, and many others. I still remember very clearly. They were again, so part-time, they actually worked as almost like a full-time teachers. Very dedicated, devoted, and I learned a lot of things from them, not just medicine, but other things, and also the purpose of my life and my career. And next, I would like to mention that when the full-time departments were created in my time, Dr. P.K. Sen was the first professor of surgery and director of surgery. He was again a very dynamic surgeon, very energetic, and very excellently organized. He not only organized all the department, but also encouraged several people, young people, to take up full-time job, though the job those days were very low paid, very low paid. Anyway, Dr. Sen, though in surgery and I am in pharmacology, I was a very junior person in pharmacology, but he treated me probably as almost a part of his department. And later on, when he got a big grant to develop the department as a surgery and medicine full-time department, he graciously gave me rupees 10,000, dollars, $10,000 to establish radioactive isotope laboratory, probably first in India, full-fledged laboratory and isotope. With those 10,000 and along with the big help and support from the Dean, Dr. H.V. Joglekar, and then visiting professor of pharmacology, Dr. R.A. Lewis, who came as the WHO professor for a couple of years, I could establish a full-fledged radioisotope laboratory and start the thyroid clinic. That was the beginning. Diabetes was separately treated for the department at that time. And believe me, then everybody thought, what medicine, what isotope has to do with pharmacology? That's true. That's true. That isotope is a tool used everywhere, everywhere. But we could use the isotopes in radioactive for various isotopes for diagnosis, treatment, and also extensive in research in those days. Believe me, the Society of Nuclear Medicine, India, was conceptualized and established, started in my room in KM Hospital, and along with Dr. R.D. Ganatra, who was working with RNC, with that Indian Cancer Institute, which was headed by Dr. B.R. Khalolkar. The first meeting of this society was held in Bombay in 1969, I suppose, and was inaugurated by no less than person that Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. Vikram Sarabhai. Although I spent my time in pharmacology, my main interest was clinical medicine, and therefore it helped me, along with, of course, other my colleagues, to change the whole curriculum and teaching of pharmacology and making it more interesting. By that time, we started getting many brilliant students joining pharmacology because the teaching of pharmacology changed almost to what I now call it clinical pharmacology, but we call it as pharmacology and pharmacotherapeutics. You know. So then that is why, even in pharmacology, what I learned in pharmacology and what is pharmacology, there is vast difference, In my time, there are hardly any books, and there are books which contains all this. Before penicillin, there are hardly any drugs, I mentioned to you.
So you wrote the textbook which changed.
Anyway, I enjoyed my stay with KM and GS Medical College, and I'm still enjoying.
You hear me now? Hello?
All those colleagues come and visiting me, and I discuss them.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your story of the development of the department and bringing pharmacology into the mainstream.
Thank you for giving me
Thank you very, very much, sir. Now, we move on to the Doyen of Medicine, Dr. Farokh Udwadia, and we are fortunate to have him here today evening. Sir?
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. I have great nostalgic feelings for the GS Medical College and the KM Hospital. I joined in 1948. There were just 80 students taken in those days, and we knew each other extremely well. It was indeed a joyous time. The first 2 years I found the most difficult, because we had never expected to have to read as much as we had to read in the first 2 years. And many a student almost had nervous breakdowns going through Gray's Anatomy and various books on physiology. I well remember that. I found the subsequent years much, much more easy. I remember my teachers. Dr. Kopikar was indeed fantastic as far as anatomy was concerned. There was a Dr. Montero in physiology, Dr. Batliboy in Batliwala, I think, in physiology as well. And there were several others. There was Dr. Satoskar, who's already spoken in pharmacology, and I think he had another pharmacologist who used to come at that point in time for a matter of a few years, and he was Dr. Lewis, I think. Dr. Satoskar, I'm sure, would remember him. On the clinical side, we had some great teachers, and I can't but help feel so indebted to them. On the medical side, there were 2 or 3 very good teachers. One was Mr. Rustam Jal Wakil, who was a remarkable individual, a gentleman to his fingertips, who used to take clinics and cardiology. There was N.D. Patel, who was remarkable, who would teach once in a while, mind you, not every time. But when he taught, he would sometimes teach for 4 hours at a time. He had a remarkable way of teaching. He would take a sentence from the textbook and say, this is wrong. And from there, the teaching would start. Even though, mind you, the sentence from the textbook was really right. And there was, on the surgical side, there was, of course, Dr. Baligai. Dr. Cooper had just left, so I unfortunately missed teachings of that, Daddy Cooper, as he was rightly called. The Dr. Baliga, I think no one has mentioned, he was indeed a great surgeon, but a fantastic teacher. He was as much a physician as a surgeon. And I loved, and many students, both in medicine and surgery, loved to attend his outpatient clinics. It was fantastic. Now, I want to just share the amount of work we had to do as residents. My outpatient was on a Tuesday. It was also an emergency day. On a Tuesday, we would be seeing about 150 or 160 patients. And I, being the most junior at that time, a houseman, was supposed to screen patients for TB. So I had to screen about 30 to 40 patients every Tuesday for tuberculosis in a small little cabin. I'm amazed that I didn't contact tuberculosis in all these years. But then there was also our emergency on the same day. We had 30 to 35 patients sometimes admitted in an emergency, Ward 12. The sister in charge was a famous sister, Sister Gambhir, who was really a dictator and would keep all of us on our toes. 30 to 35 patients on the male side, 10 patients on the female side. There was no pediatric department, and we were also asked to look after about 5 or 7 children or even infants who were admitted at that time. It was indeed quite a Herculean task. So the whole of Tuesday, and then Wednesday morning, the whole of Tuesday we were awake. Wednesday morning was a round. The round was quite long. I had a lovely boss, again a thorough gentleman, who had one peculiar habit. His name was Dr. Raghuvan. He would ask us to do the blood count and the urine examination of every patient who he thought was necessary. And then after the round on the next day, when I told him what the blood examination, we did it, mind you, we didn't send it to the lab. When I told him what the blood count was or what the urine was, the invariable reply to him was check up. Now, how many times could I check up? So ultimately, I had to say checked up to him. So that was quite an amazing thing also. So it was quite a hectic time in our days, but I learned a great deal. The foundations of my medical career of medicine was laid at the KEM hospital. There's no doubt about that. We had a lovely group of individuals also in the quarters. So many of them have passed away. I'm one of the few last of the Mohicans waiting to leave the world. That's how it is. I would say then, after I finished my post-graduation, I went abroad, and I first was a resident in the Middlesex Hospital, a teaching hospital. And I found myself telling myself that, goodness me, there's not much difference between the Middlesex and the KEM hospital. Everything that happened in the KEM hospital is the same as what is happening in the Middlesex hospital. It was as good. The KEM was as good as that. When I returned, you see, it was one thing was unfortunate. I was a registrar at one of the best units in Edinburgh under the great Professor Crofton. He was the man who, with Dr. Grant, first noted that when you use 3 drugs simultaneously in tuberculosis, that was streptomycin, PAS, and INH, the cure rate was as high as 97 to 98%, provided it was done properly and given regularly. I was with him. When I received intimation from the KEM hospital that there is a vacancy, and would you please come? So I told my boss, this is so. But he said, no, you should be with me for at least 2 years. You're too young to be a consultant. This was at the age of about 27, 28. But I said, this is a great opportunity for me. I can't miss it. So he said, well, okay, go. But I'll keep your post for 3 months. If you don't come in within 3 months, I'm afraid I'll have to give your post away. So I came back all the way. And when I came, within a few days, I was notified that the post was scrapped. I won't go into the details of that. It was a great disappointment to me. I would have loved to be at the KEM, to be a teacher at the KEM. I love teaching. In fact, I used to teach almost once or twice a week to the students allotted to my batch, to our batch, to the ward. So I was going back when the JJF heard that I was free, so they insisted that I join the JJF. So I went to the JJF. Now, I've spent almost 30 years at the JJ hospital. And they were some, perhaps, the best years of my life. But how can I ever forget the alma mater that taught me medicine and launched me on my medical career? I'm extremely grateful to the hospital.
Thank you, sir, for that wonderful walk down memory lane. KM's loss was JJ's gain. Thank you very, very much, sir, for that wonderful tribute to KM and to your teachers. And now we have our last eminent speaker for this particular session, and that is Dr. Dev Pardanani, who is universally acknowledged as one of the pioneers of kidney transplant surgery. Can we have you, sir, please?
Yeah, I can start. Today I have got a rare opportunity to tell the story that is probably not known of kidney transplant the first kidney transplant in India. This starts in 1962. Dr. R.N. Cooper was suddenly appointed as examiner for the MS examination for this particular year. I mean, from where suddenly he appeared in this role, we were surprised, but we were pleasantly surprised. We had never met him before, and we didn't know how he talks or how he examines the people. But anyway, it was very exciting. The examination started with theory papers. In the last paper, fourth paper was on essay writing. They gave two subjects, you can pick up any one. One of those was kidney transplant, and I picked up that. Next, we had to take examination in practicals. We had to examine a long case and a couple of short cases, and we had to present it to the examiners. While I was examining my patients, Dr. Cooper was there. And when I was ready to present, he came to me and looked at me and asked me a question. Did you write your essay on kidney transplantation? I immediately said yes. He looked at me and nodded his head up and down in appreciation and encouragement. I'm just still wondering why he came during that particular examination only. This was very momentous time for me. After the examination was over, this particular thing kept on hitting me all the time, this question of kidney transplantation. And it was like he had put a seed of that particular idea in my head. And I was looking for something where I could start doing clinically. I met Dr. Sen, P.K. Sen, who was director of KM Hospital, Department of Surgery, and told him to give me the permission to do kidney transplants in animals, dogs. We had a beautiful, very nice laboratory on the terrace floor, the dog lab, where all types of experiments could be carried out. Dr. Sen was very happy to do that and give me the permission. And I used to do one kidney transplant there on dogs per week. And I kept doing it for quite a few weeks, and then I mastered that technique. And I could say, exaggerating a little bit, so I could probably do this operation blindfolded. Anyway, in 1965, we did our first clinical renal transplantation in KM Hospital. This was done because we also had a very good artificial kidney and nephrology department, and we used to get cases who needed to be cases which probably agreed to be fit for getting transplant. They will be treated by dialysis, and when they were fit, we get a lot of cases who could be likely donors, good donors, because we used to get so many accident cases which could not be salvaged by the treatment. So in 1965, with Dr. Sen's backing, we did the first kidney transplant. This operation went very well. Dr. Sen was there with me. And we were able to establish the procedure in a very proper manner. After that, we published a paper on the first case. After that, we did 2 more cases and published one more second paper. In 1968, as Dr. Sen asked me to present this paper at the annual conference of ASI, Association of Surgeons of India in Madras. I was a junior lecturer, so I was pretty shaky. How am I going to face it? This was the first kidney transplant, and it had evoked a lot of responses from people. Some which were very encouraging, some which were not. Anyway, I had to present this case, this particular paper. I did that. I got a lot of compliments. And of course, a lot of criticisms. And criticisms went to that extent where people said that you have broken the law. You have done something which is not permitted. So Dr. Sen said, okay, show me the law where it says we cannot do that. Anyway, this particular thing, and Dr. Sen said, if we have broken the law, you say we'll go to prison. We'll all go together, the whole team will go to the prison together. So we were actually rounded up. But we found ourselves not in the prison, but in the head office of the Municipal Commissioner's office, where we were felicitated very promptly and very nicely. So what I look at, when I look back, I feel that Dr. Cooper came probably just to put that seed in particular my head, you know. Why me? I don't know. So I took over the Department of Urology after Dr. Vora and Karanjawala retired. But the seed does not sprout unless you water it, you put fertilizers, and that was done by Dr. P.K. Sen. After the first case was successfully done, I had my own operation theater. Dr. Sen never, even once entered our operation theater. He had the confidence, and we had developed the ability to earn that confidence. By the time I retired, we had done hundreds of transplants. And these transplants were done now, even those days we were doing and we are doing now, not as something very special or something very difficult. It is being done like any other major urological surgery operation. And the results, as you can, only one thing happened that changed the results. When we started off, we were doing cadaveric transplants, which were difficult. But after we came to live donor transplants, things became much easier. And today you can see the results. Every hospital, not big hospitals, small hospitals, any city or small city, you can see kidney transplants being done confidently and with good results. This is a story I think which probably was not known to many people. I think particularly the beginning, which I still remember and give a lot of credit to Dr. Cooper. He is the one who got the ball rolling. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your journey in the world of kidney transplants with all of us. And sharing the story of Dr. Cooper and Dr. Sen's role in your coming out with all the work on kidney transplant. Thanks to all our legendary speakers. And now, in the next 20 minutes, we have a galaxy of deans who will be addressing us. And first and foremost, we will have the dignified disciplinarian, Dr. Pragnya Pai.
I became Dean of Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I became Dean of DN Medical College, Nair Hospital, and worked there as 3 years for Dean. And subsequently, I came to prestigious twin institutions, AEM Hospital and GS Medical College. And I spent 10 years as Dean in this college. Priorities were well defined. Medical services first, medical education next, and services to follow. These 10 years have been extremely challenging, satisfying, educative, and enjoyable, barring few hiccups. And I still remember those 10 years, experiences of 10 years. And my respect, regards, and twin institutions, KAM Medical College. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. We were really fortunate to be taught by you and to have your discipline, disciplining us as we were students of yours. And thanks for being with us. And next we have Dr. Shiratti, who blended really gracefully with the campus, and he walked the talk, and he was responsible for the creation of the EMS. Sir? So you'll have to unmute. No. So you'll have to unmute, I think.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you, Sanjay, for inviting me to speak in this occasion. And GOSUMEC Foundation USA seems to have really grown into a large tree from which fruits are ready to be plucked. What I remember was the seeds of this organization was laid by us in the Platinum Jubilee celebrations. We used to have a group of people who used to gravitate down to my office after the working hours, and then we would keep discussing many things, and normally things to improve KM, GS Medical. So one of the things which I had felt at that time, an institution rests on 4 pillars. The 4 pillars are the faculty, the students, the equipment, and finally the alumni. And there recently was an article in the newspaper which reported that one of the alumnus of IIT Bombay had donated a large amount of money to the IIT Bombay for establishment of a research lab. So then I was asking, Dr. Ravi Bapat used to come quite frequently, so I asked him that, do we have any contact with the alumni? So they all said no, nobody has really contacted them, nobody has gotten in touch with them. So finally, that was the time when we decided that Ravi Bapat and I would make a trip to the United States to get in touch with the alumni of KEM, invite them to be a part of the growth story that KEM was. And so we decided that we would do it, went home and told my wife Naina that this is what we are planning. Then she said that whenever you visit someone, you don't go empty-handed. You have to take some gifts. So what are you planning on that? So then we thought that we would design a KM tie, which I still wear with pride. And then there was a laminated photograph which could be kept on the desk, with, in some cases, with a small clock inside, and then a black small bag for the ladies with the KM logo on it. So we filled up 2 huge suitcases full of this stuff. We were going to land in Chicago, where Manubhai Vora was supposed to pick us up. And then when we landed there and went through the customs said, please open your bags. So we opened the bags and he said that you cannot bring in stuff to sell in the US unless you have a license to sell. Otherwise, you'd have to pay a large amount of tax on this. So we started laughing at him. So he was wondering, oh, why the hell are these people smiling and laughing at us? So then we had to give him a copy of the brochure for the Platinum Jubilee and tell him that this was meant, these gifts are meant for distribution to the old boys or the alumni of the KM hospital. So when he heard that, he said nothing further. He said, please go. So we went down and then we met Manubai Ora and Neela Ora. Neela Ora is a student from KM. So we used to call her a daughter of KM. And since Manu is married to her, obviously he was called the son-in-law of KM. Remember that he was not even a doctor. He is not even a doctor. He is an engineer and an MBA. But he came forward and said that I will look after the entire administrative part of establishing a charitable society. And one more person I need to remember with a lot of affection is Dr. Vijay Dave. Vijay, when we had this meeting of the alumni in Vijay's house. And then that was the time Vijay and I decided that there was a stinky bathroom opposite the dean's office. We decided that that bathroom was going to be renovated, the bathroom taken out and converted into an office which was meant for the alumni. And this was called as Nostalgia. And this was inaugurated by a student from the first batch, the 1925 batch, and a student from the 2000 batch, which was the latest batch. And I'm so glad to tell you that within 2 months of it, the GOSUMEC Foundation America donated almost $100,000 for purchase of lasers for the ophthalmology department. And in about 10 years' time, I think they had collected almost $250,000 as a corpus. I have no idea what has happened to the functioning, but I'm so glad that it is being woken up and woken up quite vigorously by Sanjay and his team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for converting the Lido, the lavatory in front of the dean's office, into the nostalgia room. And now we go on to Shirsagar Madam. Known for sheer grit and determination, she did dream big for the new UG-PG hostel, and this large multi-story building is now a reality. Madam?
Thank you very much, Vinita, for that introduction. And the outset, I would like to thank Sangeeta Rawat and Sanjay Bindra for organizing this wonderful event. And it's a great privilege to be part of this centenary celebration. I think I have spent half of my life, or maybe more of my life, at the GS Medical College and KEM Hospital, and I've been the most enjoyable time of my life. We have heard these great stalwarts tell us about their life in KEM. We've also heard the history of KEM from Dr. Pandya. I will maybe add a bit to that history, which I'm sure after the centenary celebration, the years to come, the students would remember it. Well, about 100 years, about a bit less, from the time the 1907's Act 3 was formed, which asked mandated the municipal corporation to look after the medical relief of this great city of Mumbai, or Bombay as it was called then. Some great people of the public health department around 2000, a bit later than that, 2002, 3 or so, thought, why are we spending money on these colleges? It's not our mandate. We should not be spending so much money on the GS Medical College, was a grumbling which reached the ears of the municipal commissioner. Additional municipal commissioner, who was in charge of the colleges and hospitals, got quite fed up, and he told them one day, well, he nearly told them that if you don't want, I will sell off these colleges. That's where we were. And then as fortuitously would happen, came two disasters, the bomb blast disaster and the monsoon disaster. And as you can well imagine, the contributions made by our students and the faculty in handling disasters were stupendous, outstanding. We even got a publication in the Lancet where we actually explained our experience in the bomb blast, and also got a publication in the Community Message Journal where we shared our experience in handling the monsoon disaster. So much was the impact of how we handled these disasters that not only did the grumbling stop, but in fact, the Public Health Committee people now demanded for a medical college, one in the eastern suburb and one in the western suburbs. That's how we have the medical college in the western suburb, and I'm told that the one in the eastern suburb is soon to come. We have, I think, always had such disasters, as Dr. Pandya mentioned, one or the other reason that has helped our institution to be not only maintained, but also to grow to greater heights. I will share a small experience again. The municipal commissioner got malaria during the malaria time. And believe it or not, the Department of Clinical Pharmacology, as Dr. Satoskar mentioned, the importance of it in public health and patient care was then recognized. And that's how we got the Department of Clinical Pharmacology, an anecdote that I always tell people. In this short 2-minute talk, I can't share more experiences, but there are many such experiences. 6 years as dean and so many years in the college, first as a student and then as a teacher, is phenomenal. I still feel very, very grateful when I meet students who remember, and most important, the patients who remember. And they often tell us how good their experience in KEM has been. Recently, we have been always reading about the Sensex in India going up and down. Whatever happens to Sensex, the quality of care and the quality of education and the flag of KEM Hospital and GS Medical College will, I'm sure, always remain high. 75th year, as Dr. Shirati mentioned, was a great year for us with the President's visit. I remember Dr. Avi Patwardhan and the student exchange program that we started with him. And now we have, as Swati Piramal mentioned, this internship program, taking them into really tribal areas and getting them on the other side, experience of the rural India. Sangeeta has been supporting this enormously, and I'm sure we will have further so many things happening. Dr. Kothari's statement, Saraswati can't be overturned by Lakshmi, but we always will remember that funding is required. And we all look forward to a support from each and every one, alumni, current student. And I'm really delighted to see that the humanities department under guidance of Lopa is doing such a wonderful job. And I'm very grateful to the God for giving me this opportunity. And today happens to be my 75th birthday. I will remember this and cherish this at all times. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, madam. And thanks for adding that brilliant bit about the history of contribution
Happy
to public
birthday.
health done by KEM Hospital. Thanks, madam, very much. And now we move on to the man of medicine, Dr. Yolekar, who also served as dean at KEM.
Thank you, Madam Salvi. At the outset, let me compliment the current Dean, Dr. Rawat, and Dr. Bindra for this beautiful occasion. It is something momentous for us to recollect so many incidents. Now, going back historically, I joined the KEM Hospital as a professor of medicine and was there as a professor in the Department of Medicine for almost 10 years. That is from 1988 to 98. I was received in person when I visited the office of Dr. G.B. Parulkar, personal welcome and the best wishes. And in 89, at his hands, I received award for the outstanding teacher in clinical medicine. I was quite happy at that. My unit was the Saturday unit, and our ward 4 and 9. So invariably on Sunday morning, either there is to be call or round. One of the dreaded things which I really did not like was visit in the sense round to the rabies ward, where we knew that nothing much could be achieved except for satisfying the relatives and offering hope to the patient. At that time, tetanus also was there in our ICUs. Couple of incidents of mass importance. Number one, I started this hypertension clinic. At that time, Dr. Hema Kulkarni was the head of cardiology. And hypertension clinic now continues to offer services. It is a major public health problem and a challenge. The second thing was the 1992 bomb blast disaster, at which for the entire day from the afternoon 2:20 to almost 9 o'clock, we were on our feet. Till in the evening, Dr. Dilip Karnad and Shenoy took over. And let me tell you, this particular incident gave us the insight of managing crisis. And thereafter, in 2006, when there was multiple train bomb blasts at Sayan and Matung, the situation much effectively. And people did ask me, where did you earn the experience from? And I said in 1992, in KEM, I have learned a lot regarding managing emergencies. And therefore, this comes in relatively easy for me to handle a mass scale disaster. As a dean in 2007 and 8, I recollect our hostel, monitoring of the hostel, and maybe some events important related to that approval and all that is an emergency. Namely, the dengue clinic at that time, dengue, leptospirosis, malaria. The season was from always invariably starting in June and ending in October. Tropical medicine is an important part of medicine department, though now we say that NCD are taking over. But recent COVID has shown us that infections will continue to be a part of medicine till the variants emerge. Now, on the cultural aspect, for the first time, I recognize that OT, PT, and our medical students should have a common function. And that was how it was arranged that time, instead of being a separate one. And even the orations, which were split in different ways, I said, let us have one particular session on which the multiple orations can take place on the same day. And now I believe it is Orecon, where multiple subjects can be discussed. The second thing was about MET cell education, as earlier Dean, my predecessor, talked about. At that time, it was MET cell. And I gave them the target that the cell should become a division. The division eventually will flourish into a unit. And finally, we should have a department of medical education. So that was the foresight I thought in terms of. Now, in terms of detailed experience, I think Madam Dr. Lopa Kothari has conducted an interview of mine for the archives. Now, many people ask me, currently, what do you do, sir? And I am a consultant practicing as a consultant physician. Let me say that this is my 5th innings. And somebody asked about the descendants of the former deans. And I have with me right now Dr. Aditya Yavlekar, my son. He's the ENT surgeon. He is also GOSUMEC alumni of the Millennium Batch 2001. And he has conducted one term in chest medicine as a house physician. So he knows in and out what the workload of KEM is. And I recollect at Sion it was 1,425 beds, and in KEM at that time there were 1,780 beds. Still, the overflow was there, and always the monsoon season was a challenge for us, including so many emergencies. But I was proud that being a medicine man, I could conduct and manage the affairs from the chair of the dean as well. And thereafter, there were some meetings where, as a director, I had to convene meetings of NIA, Dental, Science, KEM to ensure that the municipal corporation activities are coordinated effectively to deal with many of them. I thank Dr. Bindra and all of you once again for this momentous occasion. I could listen to so many of the seniors for the first time, and the history of KM will go in front of my eyes. I hope our alumnus, previous one, he will also flourish. He will continue, and we are all very proud of the traditions set by KM Hospital. I recollect as a professor of medicine when I visited different cities of the country and even in Southeast Asia. Professor from KM, the label by itself, at one time I was introduced, his clinical material and massive experience is so much that the rest of speakers taken together, the cumulative experience Professor Yevlekar will be able to address. So that is the pride I hold, and I am very happy that I will look forward to multiple participations in the centenary celebration, which is a matter of pride for all of us from the senior most to the junior most. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. And we move on to one more brilliant past dean, Dr. Sanjay Oak, pediatric surgeon, orator par excellence. Sir, can we please have you?
Thanks, Vinita. When you requested me to narrate about my past and my precisely 4 years, my mind went back to 1986, 8th of August. This was the day when I entered KEM. I had finished my MS in General Surgery from Miraj, and I joined under Madam Lata Deshmukh and Dr. Gandhi for pediatric surgery stewardship. I was royally treated as an outsider by KEM, and I ran away from KEM, leaving my registration precisely 7 times. The destiny was smiling. Each time I was pulled back to the faculty, to the department. And why I said destiny was smiling was that precisely 22 years later, on 1st of October 2008, I became the director of KEM Hospital. I then continued for 4 years. I do not want to go, Vinita, into the achievements in those 4 years, because I don't believe in carrying any cabin baggage. It's all checked in now for the past. But since all my predecessors have done it, I will quickly enumerate, and then I will unfurl what I have in mind for my alma mater in the next year. So what I did in those 4 years, we built the first of the state-of-the-art modular theaters for Avinash Supe and his team. And the liver transplant program started. We had stupendous amount of generations coming in to keep the liver transplant programs going. One of the very funny achievements, somebody asked me, and this happened at an American university candidate coming in and asking, sir, which is the best achievement as you as a director or dean of KEM? I smiled and said, I started making chapatis for patients' food in KEM after 23 years. We started because I believe KEM exists for a common man in the street, and I will feed him. I will do everything that is required for his well-being. So we had a conveyor belt, we had a machine crafted locally, and that's how now the chapatis are started, and we make about 4,000 chapatis a day, and I'm sure it still continues in KEM. When it came to Avinash Supe's farmer activities, I could give him an office, a mini Audi on the terrace of our college building and construct it. But something which was close to my heart was MLT. The seats were renovated, newly done. And more close to my heart was the auditorium, which had become a pigeonhole, literally, on the first or second floor of our cardiac surgery building. That was renovated and named as Dr. Sen, Dr. Kinnare Auditorium. I think it's time we redo that auditorium in this 100th year. Construction of the 23-storied hostel building was completed precisely in 4 years. When I took over in the first month, the oxygen tank over there, liquid oxygen tank, was shifted. And when I was about to leave in the last week, the then Shiv Sena Chief Executive President, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray, came and inaugurated that particular building. On an academic front, Dr. Shivsagar Madam and me, when I was earlier Dean of Nair, we had instituted fellowships We strengthened them, and now they are taken up very well by MUHs. But something close to my heart, more than all the infrastructural development, was a record number of promotions of people who had stagnated in their career, and there was hardly any career growth that we could achieve in those 4 years. This is past. And as I say, I don't ever live in the glories of past. I've had meetings with the Honorable Municipal Commissioner and the Honorable Chief Minister about 10 days back when he visited my hospital. And I told Honorable Chief Minister that, sir, if you continue, we are going to come back to you very soon, and you must help us with generous amounts of funds. And it is these things which are required now in the days and months to come, Vinita. And I look forward. There are 7 or 8 deans who are still alive, whose hearts are beating for the institute. And I think it's time that we need to come together and ask for more, so that we can do for more and more for those who doesn't have anything in the society. Thank you.
Thank you for waking us up to the fact that there is so much more to be done, and that there are so many lovely people who are there to help us along the way. We now move on to Dr. Parkar, who brought her knowledge of psychiatry to bear upon her understanding of human relationships into the Dean's chair.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Basically, I think I was scared to come to KM to begin with when I joined there as a lecturer, because it is overwhelming. We heard so much about KM, and we were worried about my batch, that whether we will survive there. With each one is such a huge person, and the institute is huge. But then I decided to stay. Some of my colleagues have gone back. Now it's a very important for me that I was a very established acting dean. The person who introduced me to this post is Madam Nilima Shirsagar. Okay, since then I was always acting dean, so I knew this institute so nicely, and I worked through most of the deans with Madam. I think the most emotional issue which I was caught, for me was Aruna Shanbag. She being there, probably, I was the head of the department, and I have taken a lot of rounds. Dr. O, Madam Shirsagar, Lekar sir, everybody probably was interested in well-being of her. And today, we look at the mentor and mentee program. Remember that we started Shidori years back, and I remember Madam Sharadini Dhanukar, under the guidance of Madam Pragnapai, we started that, and it is now accepted by NMC as a mentor-mentee. But that Shidori program was totally focused on emotional well-being of the students. And remember, in KM, academic development is not the issue. It was never the issue. Okay, and that's the reason why slowly our focus went into the emotional well-being of students, dealing with suicides of the students. And I say this, with real grief. Basically, some of the best students we have lost. And this is where, while dealing with the suicides of the student, the first mental health helpline, Hitago, started in KM. Now, these are very important issues, along with growing scenario of medical education. There, later, medical humanities also was introduced, and I would give full marks to Madam Lopa Mehta, Kothari sir, who is another important figure for me to integrate me very lovingly into the institute. I won't forget Madam Acharya. We know who always caught us if there wasn't apron. Okay, I think these kind of personalities who become teacher, they take the teaching ahead. These people are, for the institute dedication. And I think the whole achievement of KM is because of the dedicated teachers.
Sarah, strong coffee, courage.
Yeah. we have dealt with lot of, I would say this very importantly, lot of political issues, because there was interference of corporators and political people. So deans after that really had tough time, but we dealt with the March strike, the bigger March strike. But I think something which I like today, I am a dean at private institute, Vedanta Institute of Medical Sciences. The experience, the binding, the bond, everything I carry there. But GS is GS. That's what I would say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Parker, for sharing your memories of KM. And we go on to our final illustrious Dean of the day, Dr. Hemant Deshmukh, who steered KM through the COVID crisis. Hemant? Dr. Hemant Deshmukh, please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So the year started with a very ambitious
Dr.
purpose.
Deshmukh, there's a lot of echo here.
There is an
If
echo.
you
Are
have
you
more than
playing to
one
two
devices, you
computers?
might.
Yeah, now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah. So as a medical student, I entered KEM Hospital as a supernumerary batch from the 12th standard. And we clashed with two batches simultaneously graduating in the year 1982. And we continued a lot of friendships with this twin batch, as we call it, or the Rajnarayan batch. And Vinita is also one of the batch members, 6 months senior to me. When I entered KEM, the ambition to become dean was never there. The COVID crisis changed everything in me as a personality. I, as a diagnostic radiologist, continued to practice interventional radiology. And subsequently, when the COVID crisis came into India, into the world, and especially in India, we were bombarded with patients who had unknown symptoms. The treatment was not really known to us, and it was a issue of credibility for KEM to handle the entire city of Mumbai. And as KEM would always tell, do not send any patient back to their homes. And with open arms, we opened the gates of KEM to anybody from within the city or outside the city or even outside the state, so that the basic tenet of clinical medicine could be used to treat all these patients. It was a swift decision to entirely change the structure of KEM. There were no more clinicians, there were no more diagnostic radiologists. Everyone huddled into a single room, and we had to devise a new strategy to combat the pandemic. I don't think KEM should see any other pandemic, because I know what I have seen in the last 2 years as my post in the dean, and COVID has devastated the entire city of Mumbai. Uh, Coming back to this present centenary, we are all out to help you. We are all present deans, past deans. We are there to help the entire college to gather all resources and see to it that what we need in future is done, and the past will always remain a glory. Thank you, Vinita.
Thanks, Hemant, for being with us today. And thank you all deans for sharing your memories of KM with us. We now have one special guest, and that is Dr. Chaudhary, who was a member of the batch that entered KM Hospital during the year of independence. Dr. Chaudhary, just 2 minutes, and then we have to wind up. Dr. Nanasaheb Chaudhary, please. You'll have to start your video and unmute yourself. Dr. Nana Sahib Chaudhary?
May I?
Yeah.
I think Dr. Avinash Supe has joined as well. I can see him because he was
Supe,
flying
when
and
he
I
was
see
flying,
him.
but
I see
Avinash,
that.
Yeah, great to hear you all. I'm really pleased to see. I actually attended the first half, but I think that's okay.
Supe, we do wish to hear 2 minutes at least from you.
I think the first thing I was congratulate all of you and Sanjay for taking this initiative. I'm actually airport to actually just waiting for my luggage. But what I really like is the way he has really gone. He has contacted so many people and we are going from the whole history and trying to build up the whole network. I think that is something which is very wonderful and I really look forward towards a strong network, meeting my old students, colleagues, friends. And I think this is something which we wanted to do it for a long time, but I think he has connected the whole, I think, globe. I think that's a wonderful thing. All the best. And I'm sure we'll remain connected.
Thank you, Dr. Supe. Dr. Sanjay Bindra, do you think we have time for any more participants or would you like to take over?
I think we should close the session. I just wanted to thank everyone for sparing their valuable time and connecting with us. And just a minute and a half, and very grateful for all of your presence. Thank you to all the attendees
Sanjay,
and
may I speak?
volunteers
May I
who have
end with
contributed to making
my
this meeting a
grandfather's
resounding
memory?
success. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to the legends, their families, and our distinguished speakers. Your presence and participation have been invaluable. As the co-founder and president of the GOSUMEC Foundation USA, representing our team, I am proud to close this meeting on a high note. Our team at GOSUMEC Foundation will continue to build bridges, strengthen relationships, and foster connections. We remain steadfast on our mission to connect and engage with each other and contribute to student welfare. Through initiatives like our GOSUMEC Foundation USA scholarships, including the Bridges to MBBS and More initiative, with its novel Pay It Forward concept, we have already assisted students. Apart from scholarships, we support their co-curricular activities, facilitate research and clinical opportunities in the United States, and begun offering job opportunities, including remote positions from India. You are welcome to join our community. With our team's dedication and your participation, I am confident that wonderful things will happen. Our journey has just begun, and together we will achieve great milestones. Thank you once again, and I look forward to a bright future for all of us. I think we can call the meeting to a close. Thank you all for attending.
Thank